The Dallas Cowboys just made a move that nobody saw coming, and honestly, it might be better than the blockbuster everyone was begging for. But before I break down exactly why this trade changes everything for this defense, you need to hit that subscribe button right now, because here at Blue and Silver Nation, we are on top of every single Cowboys move the second it happens. And if you are not subscribed, you are going to miss the next big update, guaranteed. Now, let me tell you what just went down, because Cowboys Nation, this is the kind of chess move that separates pretenders from contenders. Dallas has finalized a trade to bring in Rashan Gary from Green Bay, and they did it for a 2027 fourth-round pick. Yeah, you heard that right. A fourth-rounder 2 years from now. That is absolutely nothing in today's NFL trade market. And the Cowboys just walked away with a proven pass rusher who is already listed on the official roster. This is not a rumor. This is not speculation. This is done. And the crazy part is, while everybody was crying about Max Crosby going somewhere else, the Cowboys front office was already working on Plan B, and Plan B might actually be the better plan when you really look at the details. See, here is what nobody is talking about right now. Rashan Gary is not some washed-up veteran looking for one last paycheck. This man is 28 years old, which means he is entering the prime of his career, not leaving it. He has 46.5 career sacks under his belt after spending 7 seasons in Green Bay. And just last season alone, he put up 7.5 sacks with 20 quarterback hits and 7 tackles for loss. That is real production, Cowboys Nation. That is a guy who can win one-on-one pass rush battles and collapse the pocket when it matters most. And you want to know what makes this even sweeter? He is under contract through 2027, which means Dallas is not renting this guy for a playoff push. They are adding a long-term piece to the defensive foundation. Now let me explain why this trade makes so much sense beyond just the numbers. Because there is a layer to this move that casual fans are completely missing. Rashan Gary is reuniting with Kenny Clark in Dallas. Both of these guys played together in Green Bay, and they already know how to work off each other on that defensive line. When you have chemistry between your edge rusher and your interior presence, that is when you start generating consistent pressure, because offensive lines cannot slide protection both ways at once. Clark eats up double teams in the middle, and Gary hunts quarterbacks on the outside. That is a nightmare combination for any offense trying to establish rhythm. But here is where it gets even more interesting. One report indicated that Christian Parker, who is on the Cowboys coaching staff right now, was actually with Green Bay when Gary first got drafted. That means there is already familiarity between the player and the system. The coaches know his strengths, they know his tendencies, they know exactly how to deploy him from day one. There is no learning curve here, Cowboys Nation. Gary can step into this defense and contribute immediately because the people scheming up the game plans already understand what he does best. Now, I know some of you are still disappointed about Max Crosby, and look, I get it. Crosby is a monster. He is a household name. He would have been the flashy headline that dominates every sports show for a week. But let me ask you something. Would you rather have the loudest move or the smartest move? Because those are not always the same thing. League insiders confirmed that Dallas was absolutely in the mix trying to land Crosby before he got dealt elsewhere, so it is not like the front office was sitting on their hands. They swung for the fences, and when that did not work out, they immediately pivoted to a player who still fills the exact same need without mortgaging the future. That is what championship-caliber organizations do. They adapt, they adjust, they find another way to win. And the best part about this whole situation is what it means for the rest of the offseason. Because Dallas did not have to give up a first-rounder or a second-rounder or multiple picks to make this happen, they still have all of their premium draft capital available. That means they can still go out and address linebacker in the draft. They can still find a safety who can anchor the back end. They can still add depth at cornerback where this team desperately needs help. The Rashan Gary trade did not close any doors. Cowboys Nation, it actually opened more of them. Now, there is also a financial element to this that works heavily in Dallas' favor. Reports suggest Green Bay was motivated to move Gary partly for cap relief reasons, which means the Packers were looking to shed salary, while the Cowboys were looking to add talent. When those two motivations align, you get a trade like this, where one team walks away with the player and the other team walks away with future flexibility. Dallas took advantage of the timing here, and that is exactly how you build a roster without handcuffing yourself for years down the road. So let me paint the picture of what this defense could look like moving forward, because I think people are sleeping on how dangerous this unit can become. You have Micah Parsons coming back healthy and ready to terrorize offensive tackles on one side. Now you add Rashan Gary on the other side, bringing consistent pressure and the ability to set the edge against the run. In the middle, you have Kenny Clark eating up blockers and collapsing the pocket from the interior. That is a front that can legitimately get after quarterbacks without having to blitz every single play. And when you can generate pressure with just your front four, that frees up your linebackers to cover and your secondary to jump routes. Everything on defense gets easier when your pass rush is clicking. But here is the honest truth, Cowboys Nation, and I am going to keep it real with you. This move alone is not enough. Rashan Gary is a great addition, but this team still has holes that need to be filled before we start talking about legitimate Super Bowl contention. The linebacker core needs an upgrade badly. The safety position is a question mark. And cornerback depth is something that has to be addressed before the season starts. One recent update suggested that the Cowboys front office views this as the first domino, not the last one. They know more moves are coming. They know this roster is not finished. And that is actually encouraging because it tells you they have a plan and they are executing it piece by piece instead of just throwing money at the biggest name available and hoping it works out. Now, I want to take a second to talk about what this means for the locker room, because culture matters and bringing in the right kind of players matters. Rashan Gary has been described as a high-character guy who shows up every day ready to work. He dealt with a serious injury a couple years back and battled his way back to become a productive starter again. That resilience and that work ethic is exactly what you want in your building when you are trying to establish a winning mentality. Young players see how veterans like Gary approach the game, and it sets a standard for everyone else. The Cowboys are not just adding talent here, they are adding the right kind of talent. And with Kenny Clark already in the building from that previous trade with Green Bay, you are starting to see a theme emerge. Dallas is targeting guys who have played in winning environments and who understand what it takes to compete at a high level. That is not an accident. That is a philosophy. Now let me address the elephant in the room, because I know some of you are thinking it. Is Jerry Jones actually serious this time? Are the Cowboys really going for it? Or is this just another offseason of empty promises? Look, I have been burned before just like you have. I have watched this team talk a big game in March and then crumble in January more times than I can count. But there is something different about the way this front office is operating right now. They are making calculated moves. They are preserving draft capital. They are adding proven players at positions of need. And they are doing it quickly without getting into bidding wars they cannot win. That feels like a team with a plan, Cowboys Nation. That feels like a team that understands the window is open and they need to climb through it before it closes. Micah Parsons is not getting any younger. Dak Prescott is not getting any younger. CeeDee Lamb is in his prime right now. The time to win is now, and maybe, just maybe, this front office finally realizes that. So here is my final take on the Rashan Gary trade, and I want you to really think about this. Everybody wanted the fireworks. Everybody wanted the Max Crosby press conference and the viral moment and the proof that Dallas was all in. But what if the smarter path to winning does not involve the biggest headlines? What if it involves making 3 or 4 really good moves instead of one great one? Rashan Gary gives this team a legitimate pass rusher opposite Micah Parsons. He gives them experience and production at a position where they were completely lacking depth. He gives them familiarity with the coaching staff and chemistry with the interior defensive line. And he does all of that without costing Dallas anything significant in terms of future assets. That is not settling Cowboys Nation. That is building a contender the right way. That is understanding that championships are won through accumulation of talent, not just one splash signing. And if the Cowboys follow up this move with another smart addition at linebacker and another smart addition in the secondary, then suddenly this defense looks completely different than it did a month ago. Suddenly, this team has the pieces to actually compete in a loaded NFC. Suddenly, the doubters have to start paying attention because Dallas is not messing around anymore. Now, I need to hear from you, Cowboys Nation, because your opinion matters to this community. Was Rashan Gary the right move after missing out on Max Crosby? Or were you hoping Jerry would swing even bigger and go for another blockbuster? Drop your take in the comments right now because I read every single one and I want to know where your head is at. Also, if you made it this far in the video and you are not subscribed yet, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we are just getting started with this offseason and there are going to be more moves coming that you do not want to miss. This is Blue and Silver Nation, and we are covering every single update, every single rumor, and every single roster move until this team hoists that Lombardi trophy. The Rashan Gary era in Dallas starts now, and I have a feeling this is just the beginning of something special. Let me know your thoughts below, and I will see you in the next one.